I was counseling a couple last month who'd been married for 3 years, and they were on the verge of divorce. 3 years, and when I asked them what went wrong, they both said the same thing. We thought love would be enough. They thought if they had chemistry, if they had feelings, if they had attraction, that would carry them through. But here's what nobody told them before. They said, I do love isn't enough. Chemistry isn't enough. Feelings aren't enough. If you want a marriage that lasts, you need something most couples never build. A foundation that can withstand every storm life throws at you. Proverbs 24:3-4 says, through wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Wisdom builds, understanding establishes. And what I'm about to show you in the next few minutes will reveal exactly what God requires for a marriage that doesn't just survive, but thrives for decades. Welcome to Holy Spark Soul, where we build lives and relationships on truth that lasts. If you're believing God for a marriage that goes the distance, or if you're already married and want to strengthen what you have, type I'm ready in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because what I'm about to share could save your future marriage or transform your current one. Let me show you what God says makes a marriage last. You need to understand something foundational that most people get backwards. They think marriage is about finding the right person, but God says marriage is about being the right person. See, we spend all this time creating lists of what we want in a spouse, their looks, their career, their personality, their spiritual maturity, but we spend almost no time asking, am I ready? Am I healed? Am I whole? Am I the kind of person who can sustain a lifelong covenant? And that's why so many marriages fail. Two broken people come together thinking the other person will fix them, complete them, heal them. But Genesis 2:24 says, therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. You can't become one flesh if you're not even whole as an individual. You can't unite with someone else until you've dealt with your own wounds, your own baggage, your own unhealed trauma. So before you even think about marriage, God is asking you, are you ready? Have you done the inner work? Have you healed from past relationships? Have you dealt with the daddy issues, the mommy issues, the abandonment wounds, the rejection scars? Because if you bring that into a marriage unhealed, you're not bringing a partner, you're bringing a patient. And your spouse isn't called to be your therapist. Think about Adam and Eve. When God created Eve, Adam was already complete in his identity. He knew who he was. He knew his purpose, naming the animals, tending the garden, walking with God. He wasn't sitting around lonely and desperate, scrolling through fig leaves hoping to find his missing piece. He was whole. And only when Adam was whole did God say, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Notice, God didn't make Eve to complete Adam. He made her as a helper comparable to him. That word comparable means suitable, fitting, corresponding. Eve wasn't Adam's missing half. She was his equal counterpart. To whole people coming together to multiply what God gave them individually. That's how God designed marriage. Not 1 + 1 = 1. 1 + 1 equals exponential multiplication of purpose, impact, and legacy. Are you whole enough to multiply rather than extract? Are you healed enough to give rather than take? Are you mature enough to serve rather than be served? Because if you're not ready for a marriage that lasts. You might be ready for a relationship. You might be ready for companionship, but you're not ready for covenant. Here's the second thing God requires for a lasting marriage. A foundation, built on Him, not on feelings. Feelings are real, but they're not reliable. Chemistry is important, but it's not constant. Attraction matters, but it fluctuates. If your marriage is built on how you feel about each other, it will crumble the first time you don't feel it anymore. And trust me, there will be seasons when you don't feel it. Matthew 7:24-25 says, therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain descended, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house. And it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. Notice Jesus didn't say storms wouldn't come. He said, when storms come, not if, but when the house built on the rock will stand. Every marriage faces storms. Financial pressure, health crises, loss of loved ones, career setbacks, parenting challenges, misunderstandings, hurt feelings, disappointments, temptations. If your foundation is feelings, those storms will destroy you. But if your foundation is Christ, if you've both built your lives on obedience to God's word, if you're both committed to Him first and each other second, that marriage will weather any storm. But here's what most people miss. You can't build on Christ together if you're not both already building on Christ individually. You can't have a strong marriage foundation if one person is on the rock and the other person is on sand. 2 Corinthians 6:14 warns, "Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers." That's not about being mean to non-Christians. That's about protecting you from building a life with someone who doesn't share your foundation. Because when storms command, you need to be able to pray together, worship together, seek God together, stand on His promises together. You need to be able to say, "I don't know how we're going to get through this, but God does, and we're going to trust Him together." If one of you is running to God and the other one is running to everything but God, you're not unified where it matters most. But there's something even more critical for a marriage that lasts. And most people never talk about this. You need a shared vision that's bigger than your relationship. Amos 3:2-3 asks, "Can two walk together unless they are agreed?" Agreed on what? Not just on whether you like the same movies or prefer the beach. Over the mountains, agreed on where you're going. Agreed on what you're building. Agreed on what God called you to do together. See, marriage isn't just about companionship. It's about partnership and purpose. God doesn't bring two people together just so they can be happy. He brings them together so they can multiply His kingdom. You're supposed to be more effective for God together than you ever could be apart. Your marriage is supposed to advance God's purposes on earth, raising godly children, impacting your community, serving in ministry, building businesses that honor Him, creating generational wealth that blesses others. But if you don't have a shared vision, you'll spend your whole marriage pulling in different directions. One person wants to save money, the other wants to spend it. One person values family time, the other values career advancement. One person wants to serve in church, the other just wants to show up on Sundays. And you'll be frustrated because you're working against each other instead of working with each other. Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." That's not just for individuals, that's for marriages too. Where there's no shared vision, the marriage perishes. Not necessarily through divorce, but through disconnection. You're living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, but you're building separate lives. That's not what God designed marriage to be. So before you marry someone, you need to ask, where is this person going? What does God have them building? And does that align with where I'm going and what God has me building? Because if the answer is no, it doesn't matter how much you love them or how attracted you are to them, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of frustration. Let me pause for just a moment. If this teaching is giving you clarity, if you're seeing marriage from a biblical perspective, maybe for the first time, hit that like button. It helps more people find this message. And stay with me because what I'm about to tell you next could save you from making a costly mistake. Here's the fourth requirement for a lasting marriage. Both people have to be committed to covenant, not just contract. A contract is based on performance. I'll do this if you do that. I'll love you as long as you meet my needs. I'll stay as long as you make me happy. But covenant says, I'm committed to you regardless of performance. I'm staying even when it's hard. I'm loving you, even when you don't deserve it. I'm fighting for us even when you're fighting against us. Malachi 2:14 calls your spouse your companion and your wife by covenant. Covenant, that word means a binding agreement that cannot be broken. When you stand before God and say, I do, you're not entering a trial period. You're not signing a lease with an option to renew. You're making a lifelong, irrevocable commitment. And here's what makes covenant work. Both people have to be committed to it. If one person is in covenant and the other person is in contract, the marriage will struggle. Because the person in contract is constantly evaluating whether their needs are being met, whether they're still happy, whether there might be someone better. But the person in covenant isn't asking those questions. They're asking, how can I serve? How can I love better? How can I fight for us? Ephesians 5:25 tells husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. That's covenant language. Christ didn't love the church because we deserved it. He loved us sacrificially, unconditionally, permanently. And that's how husbands are called to love their wives. And verse 22 tells wives to submit to their husbands as to the Lord, not because wives are inferior, but because submission, in the biblical sense, means willingly supporting and respecting the leadership of someone you trust. But both of those require covenant mindset. You can't love sacrificially if you're keeping score. You can't submit respectfully if you're constantly evaluating whether he's earning it. Covenant means you're all in, regardless of what you're getting back. So, are you ready for covenant? Or are you still operating in contract? Because if you're not ready for covenant, you're not ready for marriage. You might be ready for dating. You might be ready for engagement. But you're not ready for the lifelong commitment that marriage requires. Here's the fifth requirement. And this one is practical, but critical. You need healthy conflict resolution skills. Because you will have conflict. You will disagree. You will hurt each other's feelings. You will see things differently. And if you don't know how to navigate conflict in a healthy way, it will poison your marriage slowly over time. Ephesians 4:26-27 says, "Be angry and do not sin. Son, go down on your wrath, nor give place to the devil." Notice it doesn't say don't be angry, it says be angry but don't sin. Anger isn't the problem. How you handle anger is, and the instruction is clear. Don't go to bed angry. Resolve it. Talk it through. Fight fair. Don't let unresolved conflict create a foothold for the enemy in your marriage. But most people never learned healthy conflict resolution. They learned to yell, or shut down, or give the silent treatment, or bring up past mistakes, or say things they don't mean. And they carry those patterns into marriage and wonder why things keep getting worse instead of better. So, before you get married, you need to learn how to fight fair, how to listen without interrupting, how to express your feelings without attacking, how to apologize sincerely, how to forgive quickly, how to choose understanding over being right. Because the couples who stay married aren't the ones who never fight. They're the ones who fight well. Let me tell you what separates marriages that last from marriages that fail. It's not absence of problems, it's how you handle problems. James 1:19 instructs, "Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath." Swift to hear, listen first. Slow to speak, think before you respond. Slow to wrath, control your anger. If you can do that in conflict, you can resolve almost anything. But if you attack, if you defend, if you deflect, if you blame, not resolving conflict, you're creating more of it. And over time, that destroys intimacy, erodes trust, and kills the marriage from the inside out. Here's the final requirement for a marriage that lasts. You both have to be committed to continuous growth. Marriage doesn't stay good automatically. It gets better when both people are intentionally growing spiritually, emotionally, relationally. Philippians 1-6 promises, "He who has begun a good work in you will complete it." God is continually working on you, refining you, maturing you, and your marriage will only be as healthy as the two people in it are healthy. So you need to be people who read, who go to counseling when needed, who attend marriage conferences, who listen to teaching, who learn from mentors, who aren't too proud to ask for help. Because the moment you think you've arrived, the moment you stop growing, your marriage starts dying. The best marriages are between two people who keep getting better, who keep working on themselves, who keep learning how to love each other better, who keep surrendering areas to God, who keep breaking generational curses, who keep choosing growth over comfort. So here's your closing truth. God isn't just asking if you want to get married. He's asking if you're ready for a marriage that lasts. Are you whole enough to unite with someone else? Are you building your life on Christ? Do you have a shared vision for what you're building together? Are you committed to covenant, not just contract? Can you resolve conflict in healthy ways? Are you committed to continuous growth? If you can answer yes to those questions, you're ready for a marriage that doesn't just survive, but thrives. You're ready for a partnership that multiplies kingdom impact. You're ready for a covenant that reflects Christ's love for the church. But if you can't answer yes yet, don't rush into marriage. Do the work. Let God prepare you, because the quality of your marriage tomorrow depends on the work you do today. Marriage isn't about finding someone to make you happy. It's about becoming someone who can sustain a lifelong covenant. It's about building something that lasts, not just until death do you part, but for eternity. As you raise children who love God, impact communities for Christ, and create a legacy that outlives you both. If this word has challenged you, if you're committed to doing what it takes to have a marriage that lasts, type faith activated in the comments right now. And share this video with someone who needs to hear God's design for marriage before they say I do. Subscribe to Holy Spark Soul and turn on notifications for more biblical teaching that builds strong relationships. And if this blessed you, click Super Thanks to support this ministry. Remember, love isn't enough. You need wisdom, foundation, vision, covenant, skills, and growth. But when you have all those things built on Christ, you'll have a marriage that doesn't just lack. Have a marriage that leaves a legacy. Be blessed, beloved. God is preparing you for something beautiful.